So this week's episode is a very real, very vulnerable share by your host, yours truly, me, Stephanie. And I really share like a whole accumulation of all the deep experiences and lessons that I have learned from this season, this year of my life. And it all has stemmed from feeling the feelings that for so long I didn't want to feel. And through that journey, I have moved from victim to observer to creator. As you'll soon learn on this episode, the journey to getting to this point of creator, which I'm still integrating, I'm still really accessing from within. But this journey has been a walk through the fire, a walk through losing everything I thought I had, everything I thought I was, everything I thought I wanted and dreamed about, and letting go, and just becoming straight up ashes. So tune into the episode. You'll learn all the fun and nitty-gritty details of how I've gotten to this point. But all of that being said, I am still Ash, and I am still learning. So I am going to be finishing off season 3 with this big time lesson. So I'm going to take some time to embrace this external and internal winter, and I will see you. I will feel your energy come spring. So if you want to keep in touch with me, you can find all of my contact information in the show notes. And yeah, I want to thank you for being a part of this journey with me, and I will see you on the other side. A few quick highlights from this episode. I talk about why energy work and the concept of someone removing or transmuting your trapped emotions and entities and demons for you won't ever free you from your shit, which this is just a whole 180 from my belief system from years ago. I go over the different types of karma and how they relate to the emotions that we don't want to feel. I get into a fun concept and practice called existential kink and how it's helped me not only sit in my ick and submit to God and come out on the other side of it, going from submissive to dom. I also go over the concept of hungry ghosts and phantoms in my life, and how seeing them for what they are and seeing the hungry ghosts and phantoms within me, how I've been able to move through the pathway of desire and holding on so tight to all the things I thought I wanted to letting go of it all, which is a process of grief, deep grief, leading to an experience of deep bliss. Welcome to the School of Whispers podcast. This is your host, Stephanie. I'm a licensed acupuncture physician and herbalist with a background in psychology, health sciences, and exercise physiology. Within my own spiritual awakening, I found myself learning pivotal lessons when I got myself to be in silence. Within that silence, the whispers came through. This is my sacred space of vulnerable storytelling where my guests and I share about the magic that comes from a life of following these whispers. I'm grateful you made it here, and I hope this show inspires you to live a life of following your own whispers. Let's get into the show. Hello, my friend. So about an hour ago, I sat down to record, and then, I don't know, I think I got my tea or something, and I went to go get some ginger to put in my tea. And then I look, and I see both of my mom's, I'm staying at my mom's house, and I see both of my mom's dogs looking up at a tree. And guess who's in said tree? my son, Mr. Barley, the little white cat, if you are on my Instagram, who I post all the time, is up in the tree again. And so, yeah, just had to figure that one out. But he's down. All is well. I am here. I'm a little frazzled. So let's take a moment and let's ground down together. This is gonna be a really good conversation, and I'm realizing now that grounding down is 100% the thing to do together. So, if you're driving, use your common sense. If you're not driving and you're able to close down your eyes for a moment, even if you're at the gym, when I listen to some of my favorite podcasts and they call for a moment to close your eyes and stop, I used to not, because I was like, I'm at the gym and people are looking and like, who cares? Even if you're on a walk, who cares? Just kind of put yourself off to the side and give yourself at least 10 to 20 seconds with your eyes closed and just feel. Give yourself a scan from your head, down your shoulders, relaxing the shoulders, hands, maybe give yourself a little wiggle, feeling your belly, not changing a thing, feeling your glutes, your thighs, your knees, your shins, your feet, inhaling through your nose, sigh it out. Again, inhale, hold, let it go. Last one. And a quick little reminder, wherever you're at in your day, whatever you're feeling, you are not the body and you're not even the mind. You are the observing soul behind the eyes. You're watching everything you do without judgment, noticing everything you feel with curiosity, with appreciation. So taking a moment to just observe your body and observe your mind. Maybe noticing where you might be feeling the most sensation. For me, it's usually my solar plexus, just below my sternum. I feel a little bit of a tightness here. And I'm just watching it, not naming it, letting go of the concept of tightness. And I'm feeling it now start to move towards my back on the right side, just kind of melting down my QL muscle, my kind of like the beginning of my lower back muscle. Just watching it, observing it. And again, using my breath to bring me back to awareness and stillness, because I started to make up stories about it. So back to my awareness, inhaling, exhaling. And I feel it now move towards my sacrum, kind of closer to my womb, which is where most things in my body ends up moving towards. It's on my right side. Maybe my right ovary, perhaps, but no, it feels lower. It feels lower than my ovary. How curious, when I stop to sense and feel, I get to witness the process of movement, of expansion, and that my womb is the destination. I've learned over time that, again, whether I'm conscious of it or not, this is where it goes. And this is usually where I feel stagnation, discomfort, maybe a feeling of feeling trapped or pain throughout my day. So notice where in your body do you tend to hold? Where in your body is it usually that final destination before that thought, that story, that idea, that sensation dissipates and alchemizes into something else? Where does it go? And if you're not quite sure yet, that's okay. This is a practice. It's something that we return to again and again, and eventually it becomes our default. It becomes a habit. Bring your hands to your body for a moment, if you can, and just give yourself a little squeeze of appreciation. I see you. I feel you. I honor you. Bringing a smile to your face, a little more pressure, tight, tight squeeze, big smile, and let it go. Okay. And we're back. So I'm not quite sure on what I will be naming this podcast. Right now what feels right is the whispers of the emotions we quote unquote don't want to feel, and I'll get into that in a moment on like the whole concept of, do we really want to feel these things? Because I think the general answer is duh, of course not. That's why I'm having an issue. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to feel anxious. I don't want to feel angry. I don't want to feel sad. I don't want to feel scared. These are uncomfortable emotions, and they're just right now, like, names don't ever do them justice, ever, because there's so much more to it. And the stories around it also, and the description of sensations will never fully describe the full magnitude of how intense and real and debilitating these types of emotions can be. They are the basis, or rather the refusal or inability to feel these things are the basis of disease. They are the basis of mental illness. They are the basis of, I don't know if they're the basis of karma, but they are our karma. Because, so I believe that our mind is our karma, and within our mind is our perception. Within our body, we have all of these special sensory receptors that go to a place in the brain called the somatosensory system. It's a whole place in the brain that's dedicated to somatic sensory input. But notice I say it's somatic sensory input, because what the body feels before it goes to the mind is just input to your brain. And then once it's processed in the brain, and then the mind, which in this context can also be called the ego, or in Chinese medicine we call it the Po, the animal part of your soul, that registers that sensory input and creates a taxonomy for it. Goes, oh, there's anger and rage, or oh, there's a sense of not feeling safe. Oh, there's fear. But rather than being like, oh, there's that, it's more like, oh, pain, 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 pain. Oh my God. Sound the amygdala, sound the fire alarm. We gotta get into fight or flight. We gotta get out of this situation. We gotta get out. So it goes through the nervous system and just all the things. But before it goes and processes through, sometimes it's immediately processed through the nervous system. But sometimes before it's processed through the nervous system, it's processed by the mind. And the mind creates the story, and then the nervous system responds to the story. And of course, there's always going to be different caveats and different pathways. There's never one A to B when it comes to the human body and the human mind and the human experience. So to backtrack a little bit, one of my first ever episodes on the podcast was called The Whispers of, I think it's Trapped Emotions and Entities. I believe so. But, the name doesn't really matter, because what I'm about to tell you is I'm about to refute and debunk everything that I said in that podcast. That's the fun part about publishing your thoughts and ideas to the world, is your thoughts and ideas change. And for a while, I looked back at it and I was like, shit, should I delete that? Because I don't believe in that at all anymore. I think it's a load of bullshit. But I'm going to keep it there because it was a part of my growth and it helped me get to this point. And yeah, and the great part is here I am now, all these years later, giving you my new thoughts and opinions, which, who knows, maybe those will change over time too. We are human. We do these things. Arlo, what are you doing? He's on the fence. I'm on the fence. I'm on the, like, we're going to take this cat to the cat farm. I see you. You see me too, huh? He's jumped onto the fence that borders my backyard and my neighbor's backyard. Let's see what he does. Give me a moment. All right, we're just going to let it happen. Okay, back to it. So in that podcast, I talk about how we all have trapped emotions within our energy field, and over time, these trapped emotions cause a deficiency / a stagnation that leads to deficiency of our life force energy, chi and blood to these areas. And over time, these emotional qualities, energetic qualities of being trapped can manifest as physical pain. And then over time, what else it could do based on the belief, the emotion that is associated over time, this will turn into, or this will call in an entity. So an entity is a fragment of energy that, the way my teacher taught it to me was, say if somebody has the energy of addiction and they die, and that addiction and their soul dissolves and into the ether, but that fragment of its soul of that addiction within its soul is so heavy, and so it stays within this a level of this dimension here, not into 3D because we can't see it, but maybe 4D, because I don't know. I'm not too well versed with the D's anymore, the dimensions, that is. And it remains within the ether and it looks for a vibrational match. So that addiction could be a vibrational match to anger or self-loathing or shame. And lo and behold, it finds it in a bar. And people who get really drunk, they open themselves up to these entities to come into their body and to just create further stagnation and deficiency. So there is a piece of that I do believe. And what I've learned over from learning this, I have learned that you can do energy work. Somebody can pull it out of you and allow that flow of blood and chi to flow, and replace it with a new belief and all that stuff. But often the entities can return because it takes a while for the area to be revitalized, or new trapped emotions can tend to go there, and blah, 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 blah. Okay, so there is a level of how I feel is truth there in terms of, like, quote unquote trapped emotions. As I was saying it out loud, I was like, I do still believe that. But where I am like, is the whole concept of the entities as well as the energy work. It just doesn't resonate with me. The whole concept of the entity, like something outside of you causing more issues, is just no. I think how I recognize it now is it tumbles into deeper rooted beliefs, deeper dogma that you place, or I've placed around myself. We all place on ourselves, and confines of reality, and thinking that this is a stagnant truth. Nothing can change it. It's not outside of you. It's all within you. And yeah, like with all things, as I will always mention, there are caveats. You know, if you're fucking around with voodoo, santeria, like things like that, and humans create demons. I 100% believe that. Humans create demons, and there are situations where like that shit can get real or seem very real. But I'm talking about the average person walking around here, like you aren't full of entities and demons. You're full of deep-rooted negative beliefs based on your stories and your trauma and your mind and your karma. I feel like that could be a song here. It's a level of programming. It's a level of karma. It's a level of all of these things that create this quote-unquote issue. And also, like, it's not an issue. It's a natural process that can either be a means towards liberation or a means towards further stagnation. But how I like to see everything now is whether it is quote unquote good or bad, a means of liberation or a means of stagnation, is perfect. Because again, here comes karma. Karma is simply a means of cause and effect, and it explains how our actions impact our lifetime from the past, the present, and the future. So I feel really called to give the different types of karma that there are. So I'm gonna go through them in a summarized way, but I feel like it's just gonna build the picture here because there are different types of karma, and I didn't know that. So the first is sanchita karma. Accumulated karma is another word for it. So it's the accumulated karma of all past lives. It's like the big pot of karma that is just bubbling and brewing and ready for the next lifetime. Not all of this karma will be experienced in one lifetime. I feel like there are caveats. I feel like it's possible, but I don't think that's very common to experience all karma in just one lifetime. And that's why we keep coming back, because we are these beings who are pulled and guided by karma to create balance. It's all about the balance. And whether a human likes it or not, we're going to come back again and again to balance out that total accumulated karma. So the next one is called fructifying karma. The name is Prarabdha karma. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. So this is a portion of sanchita karma, or accumulated karma. I like this definition, that has ripened and is being experienced in the present life. I would say that this is something that could be read in a Vedic chart because it's already written. It's the current life. It includes the family, the body, and significant life events. Here it says it must be endured. It cannot be avoided or altered once it begins to unfold. I wonder what I have a few teachers who I wonder if they would argue that statement that it cannot be avoided. I don't know. But I always like to look for caveats and loopholes in these kinds of things. So we'll leave that there. That's the fructifying karma. Then the next is current karma, or kriyamana karma. So this is created by our actions performed in the present moment. For example, I like Troy gave me the example once of you're thinking about something that kind of pisses you off and you're like, fuck this, and you kick a rock and you stub your toe kicking that rock. Action and effect. So it's under our control, completely under our control, and it can influence our future, both in this life and past lives. So that being said, it adds to the pot of the sanchita karma, and it has the power to both mitigate or intensify prarabdha karma, the fructifying karma, and the sanchita, the accumulated. So maybe that's the loophole here is, and actually that brings me to this point that Troy taught me is one of the only ways that we can mitigate or intensify karma, especially quote unquote bad karma, negative karma, is to be of selfless service, to others. That's one of the best ways that we can be like, all right, we're done with this lifetime or done with this looping samsara, the looping of lifetimes. And then the last karma is future karma, also known as agami karma. So again, this is one of all of these karmas, they add to the pool of sanchita. So the future karma will manifest in the future, and it's a result of our actions performed by current karma or kriya mana karma. So it's all interconnected. And this is why we're here, and this is why I believe it's all perfect, because I'm not here to have a quote unquote good and easy life. I'm not here to get everything I want. I'm here to get everything I need in order to complete my grand pool, my sanchita karma, which in turn adds to the greater balance of all of our sanchita karma all together, all that accumulated earth karma. I do it for me and I do it for you. We do it for us. So all of this being said, emotions we don't want to feel. It's pretty basic. They're not entities. They're not demons. They are deep-rooted beliefs that keep us from moving forward, because it's a karmic cycle that we just keep on going back into. For example, someone who's feeling, well, I will use myself as an example. So I have been prone to feeling unworthy, unvalidated, and abandoned in my life. And so I have constantly found myself in relationships where I have felt unworthy and abandoned and unvalidated. And the people who are part of that dynamic are merely a means of bringing that up and out. But I've been so unconscious of it for so much of my life that I just kept on hitting that wall. And when I hit that wall, that was the last thing I wanted to feel or believe, that I was worthy of feeling all of these things, of all these bad things, and bad things happen to bad people. That's another belief that I had here. And so I just kept on looping. And where it ended is, one, where I saw it for what it was, and two, where I embraced feeling that. And I stopped getting so upset about feeling upset. And I stopped judging the judge. I stopped judging my mind for this perception of what I thought I was. I hope that's making sense. But yeah, when I had been able to feel that abandonment wound, to feel that belief of being unworthy, I was no longer controlled by it. And I no longer got so upset at myself for feeling that way. It was more of, oh, there's that. Oh, let's feel that. Yeah, you're so valid for feeling that, because those actions and that story and that past, I totally see how that could bring you there. But now let's let go of the story. Let's let go of the name. Let's let go of the past and just feel it for what it is. And that action there of embracing, of being, alchemizes those dark and heavy emotions, and then I'm no longer acting from that place, and so that there's a new cause and effect within my karmic pool of sanchita. Or maybe there's nothing. Like, it doesn't have to be positive action and effect or negative action and effect. It can be neutral. And then all of a sudden it's like there's no more stuff being added to the pot, and it all balances itself out. So how do we get through it? Yeah, I guess energy work could, but I find that so disempowering that you have to go to somebody to balance this shit out, for them to be the alchemizer, for them to remove or transmute or bring whatever it is that you think they need to do to that block. I used to do this shit all the time. I loved it, especially in the beginning. It gave me all of my basis for like, oh, I can help people and prove that I'm worthy of good things, because I had this deep-rooted belief, this deep-rooted entity, demon, that believed that I was so just filthy and disgusting and unworthy and bad. And so very unconsciously, before that came to the surface of my consciousness, I helped people, and some of it was selfless, but a lot of it had this whole agenda to it, so that I didn't feel so ick about myself. And I also, because I felt this way about myself, I loved relying on somebody else to help me figure it out, to really to do it for me. And it was actually towards the end of my mentorship with my teacher that he started to learn that I could do it myself. And he would say to me, hey, you would do the muscle test. And he'd be like, hey, I can do this, or your higher self could do it for you. And in the beginning, I was like, no, can you just do it for me? And then after a while, I was like, but every time he did it for me, I realized that it always came back. And so I would go through the process of my quote unquote higher self doing it for me, which looking back, I would just feel it. I would feel the quality of the energy of the quote unquote blockage, and then it would dissolve. Imagine that. And I want to talk about what's helped me get out of this shit. And I can't tell you how much energy work I've gotten. And none of it has taken me out of my own shit, out of my own karma, because it was somebody else doing it for me. Nobody can resolve your karma for you. No one's going to save you. Someone can help bring awareness to it. That is the beauty of relationships, family, and working with people who are tuned to energy, is they can bring these things to your awareness. But I think also in the context of energy work, that if your practitioner is not aware, that this can all be a trap too. Because what I would do is I would listen, and I would hear the story. Then all of a sudden, the story became relevant and important, when in fact, the story, I found that yes, again, the story is relevant and useful to bring awareness, but you gotta let that story go. You gotta let it go. You gotta let your trauma go, because it's just going to keep you cycling through the loop. And how you know that you have resolved these things and moved on from these things is that it's no longer on your mind. It no longer matters. And that personal story that you held so strongly to does not matter, because I've come to learn that my personal story is not important. My persona, my personality, my story, my vision, like who I am, how I look, all of my accomplishments do not matter one bit in the grand scheme of things. Who I've become does not matter. And where I got trapped was I became too important. Where so many people get trapped is they've become way too important and way too human. I can't tell you how many patients I've wanted to say that to, but so many people aren't ready to hear that. Like, yo, look, you know what your issue is? You're too human. You give way too much of a shit about your human and your story. So this is my chance to say that right here. And so, okay, so let's talk about the tools. Let's talk about the tools that have really brought me to this level of awareness of these emotions we quote unquote don't want to feel. We don't want to feel them, yet we hold on to them for lifetimes sometimes. The first thing that comes to mind is this book called Existential Kink. And actually, there are a few practices that I've mentioned in the past that I want to quickly say here, because I want to give time to this concept, because I haven't discussed it on the show yet. So the other practices are the discomfort process, which is from the book Breaking Loose from the Money Story, and the letting go process from Letting Go, The Pathway of Surrender by David R. Hawkins. And as I've come to find, it's all the same thing. It's just a different flavor, a different pathway to get to the same point. So I'll link those in the show notes. So, Existential Kink. It's by Dr. Carolyn Elliott, and I'll link in the show notes an interview that she did with Dr. Kelly Brogan, who has also been a really powerful teacher for me within all of this shadow work. Because basically what this is it's shadow work. The things that we convince ourselves that we simply cannot be and cannot feel, and it's too dark, it's too much, it's too scary, whatever it may be. This is the work. This is the shadow work that is a part of us. So Dr. Carolyn Elliott, in this interview, she talks about, and I'm not going to do the best job at telling her story, that's why I'm going to link it, but for a quick synopsis, she is young in her 20s, she's learning a lot about Tantra, and she's working at a church, just doing some service or whatever it may be, making no money, getting into her doctorate program. And she's waiting in line for food stamps, and she's thinking about how all of these people at this church that she works at talk about how God is in everything. It's like more of a spiritualist church. And so how God is in everything, and God is in everyone, and everyone is God. And she's just miserable. She's feeling like a loser, waiting in line for these food stamps and thinking, wow, if I am God, and God created all of this that I'm in right now, waiting in line, feeling like a fucking loser for food stamps, then God is one kinky motherfucker. And thus, long story short, birthed the whole concept for her of existential kink. So the way that we could look at it from several perspectives, but what I feel like I want to say here is God is the dom, and we are the submissives. And God is like, this is how it's gonna be, and we're like, no, oh no, like I don't want to feel this, oh don't do this to me, God. And that was one of the tools that she shared with us, is I guess you could say embracing that moment as the victim, as the submissive. And as I've observed myself through that, I then get to this place where I'm embracing knowing that I set it up. And I go from victim to observer to creator or dom, if you will. Another way that you could say it is that classic line of it happened to me, to it happened for me, to it happened as me. I created it. Ram Dass, who's another very important teacher of mine, he talks about how he has this conversation with this disembodied soul called Emmanuel. And it's this woman channels the soul, and he talks to the soul and he's like, Emmanuel, I'm struggling a lot. And Emmanuel basically says, well, you're too focused on being holy when you are human. And you came here, so why not get with the curriculum? And Ram Dass says, okay, but like, who set this up? Because this is some shit. And Emmanuel says, you did. You set this up. So back to God being the dom, back to us being the dom. We are both playing the dom and the submissive constantly. And so the tool that she gave is, rather than like being like, oh, I hate this sucks, like I'm such a victim, woe is me, we can look at it as, oh, I created this so that I could feel this way, and to just make light of it, play with it, and be like, oh God, not shame again, oh, not that sensation, that whirling sensation in my tummy. Because taking it further, she talks about how if you really put side to side these sensations of the emotions we don't want to feel that are really intense, or dark, heavy emotions, next to sexual arousal, and you get rid of the description, you get rid of the story, they're one and the same. And to get I may be TMI, but whatever. This is my show, and I'll probably regret it, but it's okay because I love to feel that regret. So I notice that betrayal I feel in my reproductive organs, in my root. And I've also noticed it's like a shot of blood to my clitoris. And that shot of blood is really similar to the shot of blood of sexual arousal. And across my whole life, up until reading this book, I felt that way. And I was like, why do I feel this way? This is so gross and fucked up. Why do I have to feel this? And I pushed it down until I read this book. And then I had that realization of, oh shit, she's right. She's absolutely right. And so with this awareness, I encourage you to look at your life and emotions and arousal and somatosensory input here, and just compare and contrast. It's very interesting when you hold this awareness and you start to just look back and look at the bigger picture here. And so Dr. Carolyn, she has a similar worldview as myself, which I assume if you're listening to this podcast, especially if you're a returning listener, you share a similar worldview that we are fractals of God that have come down to this dimension, or not down, through to this dimension, this very special dimension where not only can you see and experience, but you feel deeply within these human bodies. It's a very special place to be. And we came here with, I'm really, and I don't know if I'm going to always believe this, but I'm really starting to be like, oh shit, yeah, it's all neutral. And the duality is actually my body. My human body is the tool of duality. And we've come here because of that dualistic nature, because it helps us learn lessons for the evolution of our soul and for the balance of karma. We love this dimension and we love each other so much that we come back again, and we love ourselves that we come back again and again and again in order to create more karmic balance towards the light, as well as to push our own evolution. I look back at all the people in my life who have broken my heart and caused and betrayed me, or what, all of these things. And when I'm able to be conscious, I'm able to realize, wow, we loved each other so much across all timelines. Love, present tense, not loved past. We love each other so much across all timelines and dimensions that we agreed to this dynamic. We agreed for them to slander their good name, for us to never want to be near each other again in this lifetime, just so I can learn this lesson. What gratitude and a gratitude and appreciation. You're going to notice that every single one of these practices, it goes back to that, because that is the way through. I believe that gratitude and appreciation is another word for loving awareness. And that is the way through to go from the two human eyes that are seeing and perceiving and creating that sensory input to the eye that sits behind the eyes. The eye that's the God within. The I, the one, and the I that just observes. And there's a lot that I could say about this I and all the names that it has. But one thing I do want to say is I think this I lives within my heart. And that's how I know when something is truth and something is for me. And my path ahead is when it comes from my heart, because it's coming from this I, this God within, this higher self, intuition, whatever. And let me tell you, this I sees way better than my two eyes in my head. One heart will always see better than two eyes. Ram Dass calls it the inner guru, because when he found his guru in India, Maharaji, he noticed how his whole life he was like this performer for people, and everybody wanted something from him. They wanted him to show up in a certain way, and he played the role. Whereas with Maharaji, he didn't care how Ram Dass showed up. He loved him no matter what, and he embraced him through all of his humanness. And he always told Ram Dass, love everyone and tell the truth. Love everyone and tell the truth. And I've been thinking about that concept too, of if you can love everyone, then the truth it flows so much easier. Because if you're looking at someone and you're like, fuck them, they hurt me, they are bad, I want nothing to do with them, they are gone and out of my life, then the truth is hard. Like it's like a knife that you want to just repeatedly stab them with. But if you're like, wow, and see it from that perspective that I just said, and you appreciate the whole dynamic that played out there, because there is a fine line between love, and I'm not talking about universal love. I'm talking about romantic love or personal attached love, and hate. I think hate can be just another version of attached love, because we think with attachment, we think someone needs to show up and be or experience or stay with us in the way that we want. And when they don't meet that expectation, it's devastating. And so hate starts to seep in. But yeah, if we can go back to that appreciation, then we can see the bigger picture here. And personally, I've come to learn that the only way to get through to appreciation is actually to go through that whole story and all of that pain. Because if I don't, then it's going to repeat itself again through another avatar, through another soul, another person. And going back to the existential kink, if I don't want these things, then why does it keep on coming up? If I created this universe and I have preferences, then why does it keep on coming up? Well, because I want it. There is a part of me that wants it so deeply that she calls it in again and again so that she can learn, so that she can finally feel and experience and then learn. And so that's the way through. To get to the appreciation, to get to the inner guru, the God within, is I've learned I have to play out the whole entire story so that I can feel all the emotions. But here's the big change here, because I've learned that when I look at the story and feel the emotions with attachment to who I am and my importance, as well as who they are and how important they are, because they're defining my conditional existence, then I get stuck. I stay right there, and it plays in the back of my mind day after day, moment after moment, again and again. So if I can go through that with a lens of detachment, of knowing I'm not important, my human is precious and doesn't fucking matter in the great grand scheme of things. It is a tool for the progression, for the evolution. And so when I can get there with that knowing, and I can hold myself and observe the story, observe the emotions, and go, oh, there's shame. Ah, there's rage. Ah, there's grief. Then all of a sudden, I'm able to feel it more and deeper. And all of a sudden, that name that I have does me zero service in using it as a descriptor, because it changes within my body and it travels and it takes different forms and shapes. And I just go, ah, there is that. Wow. And sometimes I'll tell the story to myself of why this emotion served me when it did. I don't always, because again, it's just another story that I'll have to eventually let go of. But sometimes it gets me there. Sometimes my logical thinking mind, because I got to get my mind on board. I have to get every piece of me in a coherence. And I have to appreciate my mind and my body for being the really incredible tools that they are. And so I feel and I feel and I feel all the things I don't want to feel. And then all of a sudden, they're no longer inside of me as they were. They were transmuted into something else. And I open my eyes and I look around, and all I can think of is, oh my God. Oh my God. Look at all of this around me. Isn't it absolutely beautiful, breathtakingly beautiful? Whether that's the street, whether that's a wall, whether that's a garden, whether that's anything, because you can do this at any moment of the day. Some of them are harder than others and I don't know if harder, require more time and space than others. Some of these emotions and these stories and beliefs take more time than others. But some of them, you can go through it real quick, especially as you do it again and again, because the deeper rooted stuff often needs, not every time, but often will be needed to be like, you have to repeat the process for them again and again. And others, again, you just, it snap. So I was withholding this information for those who would stay within the podcast to this point, because only my true ones stay here this long. So thank you for being here up to this point within my musings and non-linear ramblings. But I'm going through a breakup right now. And this is actually my second breakup within a year, because I broke up with my best friend last year, my best friend in the whole world. She's been on the show before. I'm not going to get into it. But I called her my sister husband. I was obsessed with her. I loved her so much. And I still love her so much. And then now my husband and I are separated and going through the process of all of that. It's hard for me to say the word divorce, but yeah, that's where it's heading. And it is the most, to date, painful thing I have ever experienced. And it brings me into my last topic I wanted to cover within this, which is talking about phantoms and ghosts. We'll first talk about the ghosts. So Ram Dass talks about this concept called the hungry ghosts. And so as I look back and I play out the stories and everything that's happened and the memories and what the memories trigger inside my body, is I realize I was a hungry ghost. And I was a hungry ghost for validation and a feeling of home. And I relied on these two people deeply for validation and a feeling of home. Yet, the problem is that, as with all things, nobody can save you and nobody can fix it for you. It would never be enough. Because if one moment they validated me, and then maybe one moment there was this moment of gaslighting or them disagreeing or whatever it was, then everything that they have done up to this point to validate me did not matter. And I was hungry for it because I had none of it inside of me. And I was hungry for a place of home. And I've noticed now too, as I've lost these two people that I defined as my home for years, I haven't had a home inside of me. I haven't felt at home inside of me for a really long time, until now, where I've really put a lot of time and effort into feeling this way. And I'm still there. I'm still working on it. Guys, I'm ashes right now. Thankfully, I'm no longer a hungry ghost, but I am been burst into flames and I am absolute ash. And that's why I thought I was going to mention this in the very beginning, but I probably will mention in the intro. This is going to be my last podcast for this season, because we're in the dead of winter and this is the natural progression of things. I always feel called to, I continue to create always. Creator's going to create, but publishing and producing is not the vibe right now within this winter of the year, in the time of the place in the world I'm in, but also this time in my life is a deep winter. And my word for this year is detachment. Everything I thought I've wanted from this life, everything I thought I was, I'm not. Everything I thought I had, I don't have. And there's a lot of grief in that. And what's been really special is this whole process has brought me to a deeper process of realizing that none of this is real. There's this song I listen to again and again that says, no, this isn't real, and I call it love. So as I keep repeating again and again and again and again, these stories, these people, these beliefs, none of it is real. And it's all what's behind the story, and what we think is reality is all love. And not that personal, romantic, attached love. It's a completely detached, objective love that exists between all things. And it's a mind fuck. I'll go on these walks and I'll repeat a mantra. And as I do my mantra, my mind runs out of things to think about. And I start to look at people and I start to have this realization. It's a lot easier to do it with people I don't know, of like, you're not real, and you're not real, and you're not real. And then this process has started with my cats, because there was a moment there where I had no idea what was going to happen with my kitties. And I am so attached to those little fuckers. I love them so much. And when I am at work, when I am traveling, they no longer exist in my life, because they're not directly in my life. And I create this whole matrix. I created this whole matrix for myself. So when they're not directly in my face, they're not real. And my mind will make up stories about them and how they're doing. But again, that's not real. That's all in my mind on how they're doing when they're not in my direct world. So the only thing that is real is what is present in the moment, right here, right now. And in their life, I'm not real in that moment. And it goes on and on and on. And there's more I could say about that, because there's nuances and all of those little things. But what's really interesting is when I finally get past the initial like, fuck, this isn't real, oh my God. And then the grief of this isn't real, oh my God. Then it's like, what can I create? Who can I be? But then what happens is when I be something else, then I think it's real again. And then I have to dismantle that again and again and again. And so I've realized that, especially when it comes to my ex-husband, not a fun word to say, my twin sister, and my mom, those three individuals, those three beings, I have based my reality on them being real. I've based my existence on their existence. So as I'm going through the process now of looking at them and realizing like, none of this is fucking real, then I'm like, fuck, that means I'm not real. And it's like, and you guys might be hearing this. Some of you would be like, yeah, girl, yes, go deeper into it. And some of you might be listening to me going, oh my God, Stephanie has lost it. I am very worried about her. Please don't be worried. Don't waste your time being worried about me, because I'm only real when you tune into this podcast. And I'll be more than okay. And your worry will contribute nothing. You can't save me. No one can save me. Only God. Only like these people have left. I love it. My friend Cheval put it this way. She was talking about something else in her life, and now I'm applying it to mine. These people have left a God-sized hole in my life that only God can fill. Nobody else can create home except for the God within me. And my God, my creator, who is me. But yeah, I digress. So that's the hungry ghost. And then I want to finish with talking about the phantoms. So I learned about the whole concept of phantoms from Troy Valencia, and he recommended this book. He talked about it with me, but then he recommended this book, which is called Journey to Ixtlan by Carlos Castaneda. And this is a true story of Carlos when he's a young man. He wants to do peyote, wants to learn about peyote, and everyone's like, oh, you need to go to Don Juan. He knows about peyote. So he goes to Don Juan, and Don Juan is like, oh, you want to learn about peyote, huh? And Carlos is like, yes, I'll pay you. I'll do whatever you want for you to teach me. And basically, Don Juan is like, sure, I'll teach you about peyote. But instead, he teaches him about plants, about how to be a hunter, how to be a warrior, how to be a sorcerer, which all of these together, long story short, Carlos is taught by Don Juan how to stop the world and how to see the world for what it really is and how to access personal power. So you'll have to read the book to learn about all of those things because I'm still digesting them. But then at the very end, there's this other, I guess we call him sorcerer, Don Genaro, and he talks about his journey to Ixtlan. So he's walking to this place called Ixtlan. And on the way, he has no idea where he's going. And on the way, he meets people who are like, yeah, you're going in the right direction. You know, do you want to come into my home and have some food? And he stops and he considers. He goes, no, I have my journey to Ixtlan. I have to go. And they go, no, you must stay the night. And with their insistence, he realizes, oh shit, these aren't real people. These are phantoms. And then he sees more and more people, loved ones, friends, strangers, who are calling him in and promising to feed his carnal desires of food, water, shelter, loneliness. And the more insistent that they are, the more he realizes, that's another ghost. And he has to refuse them because he's got to make it to Ixtlan. And the thing is, he's never made it to Ixtlan. It's a journey. It's not a destination. And basically, Ixtlan is a representation for returning to home, returning to the place, the source that we've come from and we will return to. And I'm on my journey to Ixtlan. And when I left my retreat, because that's kind of when I realized that my life needed to change in a big way, back from my Iboga retreat. Everybody at the end was all excited to go back home. And there I was thinking, I have to end my marriage and my life because none of it's working. And I don't have a home to go back to. And that was by far the scariest Halloween of my life. I got back the 1st. So the 31st was, oof. I still feel a shiver down my spine just remembering that. I thought I was on my journey back to West Palm Beach, but no. We're on the journey to Ixtlan, friends. And so when I've had friends and family members who don't really see the world that way I see it, with the spirituality and the karma, you know, they see my situation and they're like, oh, poor you. Why is this happening to you, Steffi? You don't deserve this. Oh, poor Steffi. That's feeding my carnal desires. That's feeding the hungry ghost within me. And if I let that hungry ghost get a bite, she'll never be satisfied. So I love my friends and family, and right now they're phantoms for me because they're pulling me in to feed my base carnal desires. And my hungry ghost within is like, where can I find home? Where can I be validated? And no one can save me. No one can be my home. No one can fill the God-sized hole that's been opened in my heart. And I see now too how I was a phantom for so many others as well. I was so insistent in wanting to bring them comfort and whatever it is that their hungry ghosts needed as well. And that part of me lost the plot. That part of me thought I could take on their karma or I could help them fix their karma. I encourage you, this is a call from me to you, to look at how you may be playing the phantom for someone else as they're on their journey to Ishlan. And look at your hungry ghosts within. And I encourage you to feel the feelings that you don't want to feel, because in fact, you are feeling it again and again. You're just not giving yourself the whole magnitude of that full sensation. Explore that sensation, explore that desire. And actually, that is the last thing that I will leave you with. As I'm having to dismantle everything in my life that I've thought I've wanted, and my dreams and my hopes, I'm left with feeling the echoes of desire. And when the eyes are clouded by desire, we're unable to see the truth of what's right in front of us. And so my desire to fulfill my dreams of whatever it may be, Costa Rica and whatever else, they may very well be my dreams, but my God is calling me to let go of my desire of these dreams actually happening. What I'm allowing myself to go through right now, as I'm in this process currently, every day, is I feel how badly I want these things. I want them so bad. Why do I want them so bad? Because they'll fill this, that within me. And then I'm like, oh, there's that trap again of something outside of me filling a gap that only God can fill. And it's so interesting how the way to non-attachment is through desire, is through feeling the full desire. And when I get to the other side within that process, and again, it's again and again, because it's a whole life, it's 29 years of desire, the bliss that I feel, the sensations of bliss and pleasure and enjoyment and presence. Sometimes again, this is probably TMI, but we're at the end of the podcast. So if you're still here, you a real one, and I'm going to share it with you. Sometimes I'll feel like full body orgasms of just going through the process of going through that similar sensation of sexual arousal, that sensation of desire, icky, that I'm like, ew, I don't want to feel it. But then I eat it for breakfast. Eat that shit for breakfast. Eat your disgust for breakfast. Eat your desire for breakfast. Eat your shame and guilt for breakfast. And then you get to have a full body orgasm, because then you're like, wow, there it all is. There it is. And you open yourself up to the full experience of all of it. So, yeah, that's the podcast. That's season 3. And I have no idea if I did a good job at keeping you guys from realizing that I was absolutely falling apart. I mean, it took me nearly a year. It took me like 9 months to get the podcast rolling again for season 3. If that says anything to you about what this year has been. But it's kind of cool how you guys have been there with me throughout, these last 8 months of this year, of 2024 coming into 2025, another whole 9 months, and I'm ready to birth something new. Although I feel like this is going to be an elephant pregnancy. It's going to be a lot longer than a human pregnancy, which, by the way, is not 9 months, it's 10 months, just leaving that there. But yeah, this is this and that is that. And what a process this has been. My goodness, I'm so grateful that I've had you there with me along the way. I feel so many things inside my body right now. I'll be back in the spring, and yeah, I love you, and I'll be tapping in with your energy here and there, but really, I'm going to be keeping to myself a whole lot. Reach out every once in a while. I'll be in my cave calling out to you, and kaka, and you'll call right back to me. We'll just make sure that we're both alive and well within the process. As always, sending you my love, and I'll see you on the other side in season 4.